Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is The Resurgence of Miss Anklestrap Wedgie by Harlan Ellison. Now, The Resurgence of Miss Anklestrap Wedgie is a novella which was first published in 1968 in Harlan Ellison's collection Love Ain't Nothing But Sex Misspelled, but I have the novella in this collection called The Essential Ellison. Now, Harlan Ellison is a writer who I've heard a great deal about over the years, but for one reason or another I just never gotten around to checking out any of this man's work until now. Now, besides being a very prolific author, Harlan Ellison has also written a lot for television. Like, he wrote the episode of the original Star Trek series, The City on the Edge of Forever. He also wrote episodes of the 80s Twilight Zone series, and he also wrote episodes of Babylon 5, and he's written a lot for television. Now, Ellison is primarily known for his science fiction work, but this story that I'm reviewing is not a science fiction story. It's really more of a drama and kind of a satirical indictment of Hollywood. Now, the plot of The Resurgence of Miss Anklestrap Wedgie is, it's about this producer named Arthur Cruz and this guy named Fred Handy who I think works like marketing or something. Like, I forgot exactly what his profession is supposed to be, but they're both working on this movie. And basically, in the story, one day when they're driving back to Los Angeles after doing some shooting for this movie, they stop in a diner, and the character of Fred Handy recognizes the waitress at the diner as a once famous actress named Valerie Lone, and then him and the producer Arthur Cruz, they go up to her and they basically try to convince her to come back to showbiz, and she reluctantly agrees. So in the story, this former actress named Valerie Lone, who was famous back in the 1940s, she tries to make a comeback, and basically they offer her a role in this movie that they're shooting, and it's really just going to end up being kind of like a walk-on role, but they're basically promoting this as her big comeback. And Valerie, she starts getting back in contact with people she knew in Hollywood back when she was an actress, but it turns out there is kind of a consequence for them trying to bring her back. Now, The Resurgence of Miss Anklestrap Wedgie is an excellent novella, and it's a really good indictment of Hollywood, and really the book is about how Hollywood can really kind of swallow people up. It's about how people don't always make it in Hollywood, and it's also about how even people who once did make it in Hollywood can fall hard, and how climbing back up the ladder really isn't very easy. And once again, it's really kind of an indictment or a satire on Hollywood, and kind of a criticism of Hollywood and of the movie industry. There's even a part of the story where the character of Handy, in the beginning of the story, when they convince Valerie Lone to come back to showbiz, he asks himself, were we really doing her any favors? Because she was already a waitress at this diner after she was an actress, and them bringing her back to Hollywood. Basically, by the end of the story, he kind of wonders, was it really worth it? Because something does kind of go wrong by the end of the book, so basically the whole idea is, were they really doing her any favors by bringing her back to showbiz? The book is also very much a commentary on the differences of generations between the 1940s and the 1960s. Now, in the 1960s, which is when this book was written and when it takes place, movies were going through a great change, and I believe the 1960s was when the whole New Hollywood movement began, so movies were changing back in the 1960s. Now, me being a movie fan, I personally like the change that movies went through in the 1960s, but it seems like this book is kind of making a commentary on the changes that were going on in Hollywood during this time. And in the story, you have the character of Valerie Lone, who is an actress from the 40s who just can't adapt to the way things have changed all these years later. Now, one thing I thought was really interesting about this novella is, now, it is a novella and it's written in prose, but the way it's written, though, it almost reads like a screenplay in a way. Like, even though it's a novella and it's written in prose, the way it reads, once again, it reads almost like a script. And there are even points in this book where, when the character talks, Harlan Ellison would have that character's name right on the side, and then have the dialogue that that character says right next to the name, almost like if you're reading a screenplay. So there really are certain points in this book where it really does kind of read like a screenplay. And another interesting thing about the writing style in this book is some of it's written in third person and some of it's written in first person. The chapters in this book that are written in first person are told from the point of view of the character of Fred Handy, but in between the parts where he's doing the narration, it goes to a third person perspective. I thought that was kind of interesting. But once again, The Resurgence of Miss Anklestrap Wedgie is a great novella, and it's a really good criticism of the film industry and Hollywood, and I definitely recommend giving this book a read. Now, once again, I have the novella in this collection called The Essential Ellison, which is a collection of a lot of Harlan Ellison stories, but this was originally published in his collection Love Ain't Nothing But Sex Misspelled, so I recommend either checking out this collection or checking out that collection in order to get your hands on this novella, because, once again, this is a really good read, and I definitely recommend it. So, that was my review on The Resurgence of Miss Anklestrap Wedgie, and bye.